One of my very favorite characters, you might call him, in the New Testament is a pretty obscure chap by the name of Andrew. Now, I have kind of an affiliation with Andrew. That was the name of my son who passed away back in 1965. So I always kind of, whenever I see Andrew, I lock on a little bit. And Andrew is supposed to be one of the 12 disciples of Jesus, but there's no content attached to his name in the first three Gospels, so Mark, Matthew, and Luke, part of the synoptic set of Gospels, other than the fact that he was the brother of Peter. That was noted in one of those Gospels. What you might call deferred status is frequently not an asset, but can turn into a pretty heavy burden. Imagine your identity being limited to the fact that you are someone's mother or father or brother or sister or cousin. And that was your big identity role. That can get kind of tough to live with. But in the fourth Gospel, the character of Andrew is developed a bit more. John's Gospel, chapter 1, says that not only was Andrew Peter's brother, but that Andrew was the gatekeeper who opened the door for Peter and who made it possible for Peter to meet Jesus of Nazareth when he was on his travels. Later, John said this is in chapter 6 of the book of John, it said that it was Andrew who brought to Jesus' attention a lad, one among many, in a hungry crowd of 5,000 men, plus women and children, who had offered his 5 loaves and 2 fish to help feed that host. He kind of pops up again there in a story that we've all come to know and love and appreciate. Andrew seems to have been one for whom no gift was too small to be honored or too insignificant to be effectively used. Still later, John's Gospel in chapter 12 portrays a group of Greek citizens coming to Andrew in their quest to meet Jesus. And it is Andrew who then serves as their guide and leads them to that encounter. Andrew was not a spectacular human being in the play of things, not even a leader. Indeed, he was rather ordinary, like most of us, just an ordinary guy. He did what anyone is capable of doing, opening doors, appreciating small gifts, directing people to important relationships. Andrew has been called the patron saint of ordinary people, which is what most of us are, just patron saints of ordinary people. Few of us will ever achieve political power or lead an army or found a large corporation or change the world or even start a religion. But the world, more often than not, turns on the gifts of ordinary people, not on heroes. No one achieves success without being the beneficiary of the gifts of countless numbers of those who are, like Andrew, just pretty ordinary. One such blessing occurred through the auspices of a man named Fleming. Was his name. He was a poor Scottish farmer. One day, while trying to make a living for his family, he heard a cry for help coming from a nearby bog. That's kind of like a swamp in Scotch. He dropped his tools, ran to the bog, and there, mired up to his waist in black muck, was a terrified boy, screaming and struggling to free himself. Farmer Fleming saved the lad from what could have been a slow and a terrifying experience. The next day, a fancy carriage pulled up to the Scotsman's sparse surroundings. An elegantly dressed nobleman stepped out and introduced himself as the father of the boy Farmer Fleming had saved. "I want to repay you," said the nobleman. "You saved my son's life." "No, I can't accept payment for what I did," the Scottish farmer replied, waving off the offer. No. At that moment, the farmer's own son came to the door of the family hovel. "Is that your son?" the nobleman asked. "Oh, yes," the farmer replied proudly. I'll make you a deal then. Let me provide him with the level of education my own son will enjoy. If the lad is anything like his father, he'll no doubt grow to be a man we both will be proud of. And indeed, he did. Farmer Fleming's son attended the very best schools and in time graduated from St. Mary's Hospital Medical School in London and went on to become known throughout the world as the noted Sir Alexander Fleming. Name ring a bell to anybody? The man who invented or discovered penicillin. But it doesn't stop there. There's blessings of the ordinary. Years afterward, the same nobleman's son who was saved from the bog was stricken with pneumonia. What saved his life that time? Penicillin. And what was the name of that nobleman? Lord Randolph Churchill. And his son's name? Sir Winston Churchill. Saved twice by an ordinary Scotsman and changing the whole historical outcome of all that. Putting in place a being who was very profoundly effective in leading the Allied forces to what is called a victory. And that means so. Game being, don't dismiss yourself and your gifts as being nothing special because you never really know. You never really know for sure. Do you remember a few weeks ago we spoke of Jesus on his judgment teachings? You remember what they were? Judge not the, remember in the King James Version it says, judge not the appearance, but judge a righteous judgment. And then we looked at the Lamsa translation of the Bible, and it was not appearance that we're invited not to judge, but judge not the, remember the word? The partiality. Judge not the partiality of your sense of what's going on. Because you never really know for sure where this is going to lead, do you? And that simple act of instinctive courage of jumping in a bog and helping a kid out is frightening. Doesn't seem like anything like a big deal on the landscape of the earth, but look what happened as a result of it. Perhaps the life was saved of a being who was instrumental in leading the Allied forces and leading the people in Britain to a victory in a war that was necessary to be done, I suppose. Yeah. Judge not the partiality, and imply that to yourself too. When you find yourself in a situation and you're questioning whether to get involved or not, take a deep breath and just go ahead and do it. Because you never really know what the outcome is going to be until time plays out. The impact of that in all of its respects. And we can never know where this is going to go to in total. So judge not your appearances. Judge not your partialities. And for Pete's sake, let's not dismiss our capacity to do an act of love and courage that can change the whole universe. Capiche? You're powerful, you're beautiful, every one of you. Yeah, so anyway, let that be what it is. Someone once said, what goes round comes round. And indeed it did in that case. And what do we take away from it? Well, be profound in your actions. Work like you don't need the money. Love like you've never been hurt. Dance like nobody's watching. Sing like nobody's listening. And live like it's heaven on earth. Pass this on. Brighten somebody's day. Thank you for listening. Thank you for caring. Okay.
I set myself free. I set myself free. Free to be the best that I can be. I set myself free. I set myself free. Since I stepped out of my way, there's no stopping me.